Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, in case you didn't see from this fancy sign. Hey everybody, sorry, just feeling in a good mood today. I don't know why, just in a great mood. If you're brand new and stopping by to this channel for the very first time, then I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy today's case video and enjoy hearing what I have to say. And if you do, make sure that you hit subscribe so that you can check out new case videos as I upload them. And for all of you returning subscribers, returning 10 to Lifers, welcome back. Happy to have you guys here with me today. You know that I'm bringing you something crazy. This case is one that has actually been requested by a lot of you. And it's really sad because I don't believe that there has still been justice at all in this case. And I don't think you will think there has either. And I believe that's probably also actually why a lot of you guys were requesting it. And so when I was researching this case, it really just illustrated and reminded me why it is we do these videos and why I started this channel, because I started it to bring awareness, to raise awareness, to hopefully bring justice. And this is a perfect example of one of those cases. So it feels almost kind of, like we're getting back to the root of things a little bit. The tragic death of a young mother under extremely mysterious circumstances left her family with many questions for many years. Kadie Major was found dead on the side of the railroad tracks in South Carolina, and her infant daughter, her body was located nearby in a pond, also dead. And the details surrounding the deaths of these two were not clear at all. Kadie's husband had a strong point of view, while her family had another. And this woman's mother was not about to let this go, guys. She was persistent, and she started an investigation of her own, which uncovered tons of red flags and holes in the initial investigation. So what happened to this young mother and to her infant child? Well, let's get into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
Kadie Lee Hall was born in Michigan in February 1981. She was described as a vivacious, free-spirited woman and really living her dream life as a homemaker, when her life suddenly just disappeared and she suddenly died. Kadie had married the love of her life, her high school sweetheart, named Aaron Major. Aaron ended up going to work for Kadie's dad, who was a house painter, and Kadie really settled into her role as a homemaker, something that she always wanted in her life. She wanted to be a wife, a mother, she wanted to cook, and this was reportedly her dream life. In 2007, the married couple welcomed a daughter named River Lynn, and not long after River was born, Kadie got pregnant again. This time, though, she learned that she was pregnant with a son. She was so excited about this, and she gave the unborn boy a name, Aiden. But just one day later, that perfect world of Kadie's came crashing down. On January 17th, 2008, Kadie's mother, Vicky, and her husband, Jeff, were awoken at 1:44 a.m. when Kadie's husband, Aaron, suddenly showed up at their house. And they knew that something was wrong right away, because Aaron never just showed up at their house, especially in the middle of the night. And Aaron was claiming that Kadie was paranoid, and that when he had returned home from work that day, Kadie was holding their daughter River and refused to even come inside the house, saying that she wanted to go and stay at a hotel and that she had a premonition that somebody was going to kill her. Aaron reportedly told Kadie, I'm going to go take a shower, just give me a second, and then I'll bring you wherever you want to go. But he says that then when he was inside the shower, he heard her truck start and that she was gone, taking River with her. But then the conversation between Aaron and Kadie's parents kind of got a little bit weird. And Kadie's mom, Vicky, said that Aaron kind of out of the blue started talking a lot about conspiracy theories. And he would go off on this string of conspiracy theories, saying that the world's coming to an end and how the government is responsible for what happened on 9/11. So it was sounding more and more like Aaron was the one who was paranoid and suffering from these delusions, not Kadie. So the family begins searching everywhere for Kadie and her daughter River. Kadie and River Lynn had now been missing for nearly 12 hours in very stormy and very icy conditions. Kadie's parents and her husband set out searching. They were looking for her truck at local motels. They were looking on back roads to see if she had parked, but they were having absolutely no luck. But her mother, Vicky, was saying that something still felt off about Kadie's husband, Aaron's behavior. That not only was he not talking much as they were searching, and maybe you could chalk that up to, nerves and being stressed out, but Vicky says that as they were trying to look in every vehicle that passed by to see if maybe Kadie was inside one of them, he wasn't looking inside any of the vehicles. So could he have known that maybe he wasn't going to spot Kadie and River, and that's why he wasn't looking inside the cars? And then, in an unsettling piece of information, as Kadie's sister was waiting at Kadie's house hoping that she would return, she noticed a Bible passage that had been highlighted. And the passage was in regards to a firstborn son being sacrificed. And Kadie had found out that they were having a son just one day earlier. So Kadie's sister was obviously extremely upset and shaken by this. She saw this and felt like something was off right away. So she called her parents immediately and asked them to come and pick her up. And when they got to Kadie's house, Vicky noticed something else about Aaron that didn't seem right. She says that his hand appeared to be extremely swollen, and not just his hands, but his fingers as well. And she says that she remembers looking at it, and it was so swollen and large that it looked like a monster's hand. So Vicky then went out back searching for her daughter, but this time she went out searching on her own, and it's unclear why she was on her own and why Aaron wasn't with her. But then she received a call from Aaron at 11:30 a.m., and it was a call that changed her life forever. When Aaron called Vicky, he said that he heard on the radio that there was an accident, that a train hit a vehicle on Oakley Road, and that 2 people are dead. So Vicky headed directly to this location, to Oakley Road, but there was no train, there was no vehicle, and there was no sign of any collision. But then, as Vicky was leaving, she spotted Kadie's truck, but it was undamaged, and it was about 500 feet from the tracks. Immediately, she knew that something was wrong because Kadie's truck should not have been there, so she called Aaron back right away. But at that point, a forensic team was already at this crime scene, over half a mile down the tracks. At around 8:20 earlier that morning, a railroad worker had found Kadie and River's bodies by the train track. Kadie had a deep cut in her lower abdomen and in her right thigh. Her 10-month-old daughter, River, was located floating in a creek about 50 yards away, and she had drowned. At the time, investigators believed that Kadie was hit by a train and that with the impact of the train hitting her, it resulted in River getting thrown into the creek. So detectives began working the scene, and that night Aaron was asked to give a written statement to the authorities. But Aaron was claiming that he was too emotional to write, and so a detective ended up writing his statement for him. But there was no mention of his swollen hand, and that could have been the reason why he wasn't writing the statement. In his statement, Aaron said that Kadie was acting so paranoid that he could not reason with her, and that she just wanted to leave the house. She felt like someone was out to kill her, and she was just acting insane. So Aaron further stated that Kadie had also been dealing with postpartum depression. And a note was found in Kadie's pocket when they found her body, and it had writings mentioning the Antichrist and talking about spiritual welfare. Aaron said Kadie was absolutely obsessed with reading about the end of the world conspiracy theories on the internet. So among the scribblings was another one that said the Antichrist could be a woman. So all of this stuff aligned with Aaron's earlier claims that Kadie perhaps was suffering from postpartum depression, paranoia, and maybe even delusions. All signs pointed really to Kadie being delusional and throwing herself in front of the train in a murder unaliving. But then as the days passed, Aaron's stories kept changing apparently, as though he couldn't remember which version of the story he would tell each person. Sometimes he would say that Kadie never entered the house that night and that she stood at the doorway with River, but then other times he would say she did enter with the baby to feed her. So which was it? I would imagine that you would remember that pretty vividly. And at first, Aaron tried to make the funeral for his wife, his daughter, and his unborn son private, telling Vicky and her family that they were not invited. I'm sorry, what? Why wouldn't her family be invited to her funeral? Kadie and River ended up being in the same casket for the funeral, and miraculously, Kadie's face was mostly undamaged in this entire tragic accident, or, purposeful unaliving at this point. So the family wanted an open casket for Kadie and River because of this, but reportedly Aaron took it even further, a step further than an open casket. Rather than just an open casket, he wanted to put their unborn son on display on top of Kadie. Guys, I'm sorry, your unborn son, you want to extract him and put him on top of your dead wife in an open casket? So my question was, does publicly displaying his unborn son somehow align with wanting to maybe show him off and tie back to the sacrifice of a child? And during the funeral, Aaron reportedly didn't shed a single tear and didn't hug anybody. According to Vicky, Kadie's mother, he was extremely cold. A few days after the funeral, Aaron was brought in for questioning by the police. But at that point, the death had already been ruled as an unaliving.
Sorry, man, it took me so long. Okay. You want anything to drink, anything before we get started? Listen, I know you've had to tell this story time and time again. But I'm going to ask you to tell us what's going on, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm talking to her in the doorway, and she felt like I was trying to keep her at the house by talking to her, because I was trying to get her just to sit down for a minute, and, I said, let me, hear you out. So we're I don't know, we might have talked for an hour in that entrance to the house, and River's just playing on the floor and whatnot, and so I got worried, and she got more and more like paranoid about me and started completely not trusting me at all. And that's when I was like, because I wasn't planning on skipping town or, you know what I'm saying, really leaving. And she felt like I was trying to keep her there, So that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna get in the shower. I'm gonna pay my employee real quick, and then I'm gonna go with you, and we'll drive around all night or do whatever you want to do, because I knew something was wrong, because she's just really shaking, scared, and I didn't know what was going on. So that's when I finally got her to calm down. So she agreed to let me get in the shower, and she said she'd wait on me. So I went upstairs, started, in our bedroom, straight down the hall is River's bedroom, and she was up there. I'm pretty sure she put River in the crib while she said she was going to go make a bottle to get ready to go. So that's the last thing she said to me. And I asked her again, I said, you're going to wait for me, aren't you? And she said, yeah. So she went downstairs and made a bottle, and I got in the shower, and then about halfway through the shower, I wasn't sure it was her truck cranking up, but I heard something like that, while I was in the shower. So I got out of the shower, looked out the window, and her truck was gone. So I got dressed, got in my truck, tried to find her.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think happened?
Well, that's why I was asking you about. I don't know what happened.
When Kadie's family brought up to police about Aaron's swollen hand and how it looked as though his fingers were even swollen, police told them that he injured it 2 days after Kadie was already dead, saying that he actually had punched a cinder block wall at the funeral home while picking out the casket. And the funeral director confirmed that Aaron did in fact punch this cinder block wall. But could him punching that wall have been a cover-up as to explain why his hand was broken if it had previously been broken? Because Kadie's family suspects that he broke his hand while in an altercation with Kadie, and or even perhaps while pushing Kadie in front of the train. Kadie's death was ruled as an unaliving, and it was also believed that she killed her daughter River. However, this wasn't just an open and shut case, and in fact, the case was reopened in 2018, with the deaths also being completely reinvestigated. But this didn't happen until after Vicky, Kadie's mother, started an investigation of her own and uncovered a plethora of unsettling details. Kadie's mother was absolutely not convinced that her daughter would unalive herself or murder her daughter. So 4 years after the deaths, she hired a private detective and looked into the case again. And during that new investigation, they learned that Aaron provided inconsistent stories regarding Kadie's behavior on the night that she took off from the home. And remember, Kadie's younger sister Sarah, who was at the home while the family was out searching, had also seen that highlighted passage in the Bible that referred to sacrificing the firstborn. So as the private investigator and Vicky began to dig deeper, Kadie's OB stated that she never saw any signs of postpartum, and she never saw anything that indicated that Kadie was dealing with anything related to postpartum at all. However, officers conducting the original investigation never even questioned her doctor once to confirm that story that Aaron had given them. And as for that note in Kadie's pocket with all of those concerning scribblings and concerning words, Vicky and this new PI believed that Kadie was actually documenting her husband Aaron's internet searches that were being done on the family computer, and that these were not searches of her own. Kadie's mom also said that she spoke with Kadie that night, that she reportedly was so paranoid and in such a crazy state of mind, and that Kadie was acting completely normal, even asking her mom to go with her to dinner. She says Kadie wasn't panicked or frantic as Aaron's suggesting. Kadie was acting completely normal. But Aaron had stated to the police that Kadie was visibly trembling and shaking and was suffering from extreme paranoia. Yet in those phone calls with other family members, they all reported that she was not only lucid, but was acting completely normal. But again, detectives never once asked her family what Kadie's state of mind was at the time. They only relied on the information that Aaron was providing to them. As the PI continued, they discovered another piece of very unsettling information. She discovered a search on Aaron's computer from the morning that the two deaths occurred, a search that took place before the family was ever notified of their deaths. That morning, Aaron had searched 2 dead in Berkeley County. Now tell me, how would he search that, and why would he search that if the family had not yet been notified, and if Kadie and River were just missing at that point? Now remember when Aaron called Vicky that morning saying that as she was out searching, saying that he heard on a radio broadcast about an accident and that they had found 2 bodies and the specific location. Well, Vicky went to every TV station and broadcast station, and not one person told her that they included a specific location in their report. So how did Aaron know the exact location of the deaths if it was never even broadcast? And Aaron had sent Vicky to that specific location where the accident really was, but nobody knew that was where the location was at that point. So how did he know? And Vicky says a pregnant woman doesn't just walk 3/4 of a mile down a railroad track in the pitch dark at night. None of it made sense. Vicky goes on to say that when they looked at the house immediately following the disappearance, there were clothing drawers in the dresser that were ripped open, and there was clothing scattered about, as though there had been some sort of argument or fight and somebody was leaving in a hurry. And she suspects that Kadie was actually packing up a bag to leave Aaron, and that an argument ensued, and that that's what this was, that it was foul play. But the scene and the drawers and the clothing and the dresser was never even processed. Police and investigators never went into the house to search. They never went in to look for clues, for evidence, nothing. And the lead investigator even said that Aaron was allowed to go home on his own that evening, the evening of the deaths, without any officers accompanying him, meaning he could have cleaned up or disposed of anything, and nobody would have known. In 2015, new Sheriff Dwayne Lewis swept into town, and he had a brand new attitude and was going to relook at this case. But the first thing that the detective says is that blood and tissue spatter evidence show that the original investigators got the wrong train. Originally, they said that a southbound train hit Kadie, but the evidence shows that it was actually a northbound train. So what else did they get wrong? What else did they miss in this investigation? This new detective also says that the interrogation of Aaron by original investigators wasn't even like an interrogation, and that it was more like an interview. And that in that interview/interrogation, they never once even asked him about his bandaged, broken hand. So this new detective, the PI, and Kadie's family firmly believe that Kadie was leaving Aaron. Because in addition to that clothing and the drawers being out and everything kind of being out of sorts at the house, Kadie had $1,000 in cash in her truck and her wedding rings were in her pocket, not on her finger, indicating that she was out of the relationship.
26-year-old Kadie Major was living the dream, says her mom, Vicki Hall.
That's what Kadie wanted to be, was a mother, be a wife, take care of her house.
But that dream took a sudden and tragic turn on a cold, wet January morning when Kadie was found dead down by the railroad tracks. Her body was right here,
beside the track.
Her 10-month-old daughter, River Lynn, was floating face down in a nearby pond. The original investigator, Rick Aulick, believes Kadie suffered a psychotic break.
She got more and more paranoid about me and started.
Kadie's husband, Aaron Major, told detectives that Kadie, terrified and paranoid, fled the house with River. But Vicki didn't buy it.
Did you see any of that?
Zero.
The case was closed, and Vicki embarked on her own investigation, determined to show her daughter did not throw herself in front of a train.
There's no way Kadie would have ever killed River or herself.
Vicki and her friend, private investigator Jessica Sanders, laid out their evidence.
I have no doubt in my mind that he killed his wife.
And who's he?
Aaron, her husband, Aaron Major. I believe he killed Kadie and the baby.
In September 2018, the authorities reopened the case and said that they believed that Kadie was not in a mental state of unaliving at the time of her death. The new investigators looking into the case also found it hard to believe that after parking the car, Kadie walked that relatively long distance in the rain and with a baby in tow. It made no sense. So they feel like the couple may have gotten into an argument that night, leading to Kadie leaving and Aaron possibly chasing after her at the train tracks. Because remember, her wedding rings were found in her, in her pocket, they weren't on her finger, and that's where something perhaps transpired between the two of them. So they were considering multiple possibilities, including Kadie being killed somewhere else and then being dumped by the tracks.
Aaron had told detectives he had nothing to do with Kadie's death. But by 2018, the case was officially reopened. Berkeley County detectives, Lieutenant Dean Kokinda and Daryl Lewis.
Aaron Major, is he cooperating with you guys?
No. Right now, he's the only one we're looking at.
48 Hours would like to speak with Aaron Major as well.
Hey. Aaron Major? Hey, how you doing? Peter Van Sant, CBS News.
Was he forthcoming?
No. He didn't answer any question whatsoever, including a rather basic question of, did you murder your family? He said, I really can't talk about this. Today, Aaron Major is the one and only suspect in the deaths of his family, his wife, Kadie, his 10-month-old daughter, River Lynn.
What is the status of the investigation now?
Status is there's a cold case unit that is taking a second look at this case, largely because a group of 48 Hours producers a few years ago were down in South Carolina working another story. The mother approaches Vicki Hall and says, my daughter was murdered and my granddaughter, and the locals here will not answer my questions. They never interviewed me. Take a look at the material I've gathered. And she'd been working with a private eye who had volunteered time. We took a look at it and said, we got a story here. So 48 Hours presents our investigation to the new sheriff in town. A new guy had gotten elected. And he said, this is a story, this is a case, assigned it to a cold case unit.
That's remarkable, because I know you guys get emails and phone calls.
All the time.
People are always getting to you. Yay, you guys. That's pretty good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And we do take those tips very seriously. Yeah. Sometimes things fall between the cracks. And in this case, man, these guys, the original investigators, had the wrong train. They claimed that this mother had thrown a baby into a pond to drown it, and it stepped in front of a train. They said the train came by on this track. They had the wrong train.
Oh, man.
The train that they claim went through may not have even gone through that night. And it's a bizarre set of circumstances why a 4-month pregnant woman carrying a 30-pound toddler would have parked her car next to some railroad tracks and ran 0.6 of a mile on a stormy, cold night in South Carolina, the coldest night of the year. And where was she heading, or who was she running from, is what we think. And did someone catch up to her, and it end up in tragedy.
Wow.
And while the investigation is still ongoing, the authorities officially named Aaron Major as the only suspect in the case. Now, Kadie's mother, Vicky, would like the Berkeley County coroner to change her daughter's cause of death on the death certificate. And she also wants to see the coroner's inquest because she doesn't understand how the sheriff has now named a formal suspect, but the coroner's office is still saying it was an unaliving. How does that match up? And she says, you can't have an unaliving and a suspect. We feel like it's fair to Kadie, my daughter, to change this ruling. It's a huge injustice to have her be ruled as an unaliving and still for murdering her child. So investigators continue digging, but they say that for now, they don't have enough evidence to make an actual arrest. They are, however, for the first time, publicly naming Aaron as the prime suspect. It's my opinion, when I'm looking at everything that we know and looking at everything here, that it seems highly more likely that Aaron was the one who was obsessed with conspiracy theories and not Kadie. So much so that he was even talking about these conspiracy theories to Vicky on the day of the deaths. So perhaps that note that was found in Kadie's pocket with all of those concerning scribblings was actually her logging what Aaron's searches were on that family computer. And that could have even been what resulted in a fight erupting between the two of them and then her trying to flee. Because another key piece of information that stands out to me was that reference to a woman being the Antichrist. I believe that Aaron suffered from paranoia and conspiracy theories, and Kadie found out about this, and she was going to leave him in an effort to protect her daughter. I also think that it's plausible that she discovered his search of, sacrificing your firstborn son, which is what then prompted her to leave so abruptly, since they had just found out that they were having a son the day prior. I think that's when something happened between the two of them, and then Aaron tried to put this all on Kadie. I also think that that makes sense and aligns with why Aaron was trying to display their unborn son at the funeral in such a way, on top of Kadie, open casket, an unborn child, as though it was an offering of sorts on top of Kadie's body, aligning again back to the sacrifice of the firstborn son. To be honest, his behavior and actions, to me at least, do not align with that of an innocent man or even a grieving widower. But I'm interested to know what you guys think and what your thoughts are on this case, so please leave them in the comments below, guys. Kadie's family ultimately just wants justice, not only for Kadie, but for her daughter River and for her unborn son Aiden. And she has been relentless in this quest, not only trying to get the manner of death changed, but also to get information regarding what may have actually happened that night. So please share this link, share this video, talk about this story so that Vicky and the rest of Kadie's family can get the justice that they have been trying to desperately get for over 10 years now. And again, I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you think that maybe she really was suffering from paranoia and delusions and, did what is being suggested or originally was suggested? Or do you think that this falls more on Aaron and that maybe he was wrapped up in all of these conspiracy theories and the sacrifice and all of this stuff so that when he found out they were having a son, perhaps Kadie was onto him and was leaving and he couldn't let that happen. It's just too weird. All of the details are too weird, and the funeral, him wanting to display his unborn child and it, visually for everyone, to the public, is so weird. I can't wrap my mind around it. So I'm really interested to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Again, please don't forget to share this video and help get Kadie's family the justice that they are searching for and get more eyes on this case so that hopefully new tips come in. Thanks for tuning in with me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the case coverage, and until the next case, stay safe. Bye.